Hi, I'm Arevika Stepanian, and I'm here at the AI Forum on Emergent AI Opportunities and Challenges for the UK and Armenian Businesses. Today, we've gathered industry leaders, policymakers, and innovators to discuss the exciting potential of artificial intelligence and its impact on businesses and the countries such as UK and Armenia. Now we'll be speaking with the attendees of today's event to capture their thoughts on the key takeaways from the event. So let's hear what they have to say. Hi, Haig. Tell us a bit about the event that you organized today.
Hi, Arevika. Well, this was an event jointly organised by the British Embassy in Yerevan and sponsored by the ambassador, John Gallagher, in Yerevan and ABBC, the Armenian British Business Chamber. So I was just assisting on the UK side. I am the UK representative for ABBC, and to basically evolve trade between the UK and Armenia. So that was my goal in supporting their event. The main purpose of the event was really to bring a lot of insights around AI, because artificial intelligence is potentially a brand new gateway, because it's new for everybody, for Armenia and the UK to work together. So for either British companies to take their services and their innovation to Armenia and to be able to make investments in Armenia, and for Armenian companies to collaborate, invest, and work with British companies. Yeah, the main purpose of the event was to have simultaneous panels. The UK went first. I put together a panel of four great speakers, and the content was really good to talk about artificial intelligence and the opportunities to work with Armenia. And on the Armenian side, it was hosted at the TUMO Center, who was one of the sponsors, and they had a larger audience and a great panel as well. And so the event took about 2.5, 3 hours. It was some great networking, some great insights, and more importantly, some great actions came out of these 2 days. And I think you'll see that on social media as the next month or two progresses.
Thank you. And are you going to host more events like this in the future?
Absolutely. Well, we've hosted different types of events. We had Hague Talks, and we've had different events for different themes. But I'm certainly happy to sponsor and support a lot more events like this with the British Embassy in Yerevan.
Brilliant. And how can people come and join this kind of events? Where can they register and find the information?
Well, that's a good question. This was a closed event, so it was invitation only, and I think we were kind of playing around with the technology too, because again, it's a bit more complicated to run simultaneous panels on video. But fortunately, we had a fantastic AV team, and that always helps. And I think we'll be looking to do much larger, larger theatres where really we can bring these two countries together to basically grow and learn about key topics like artificial intelligence, maybe about sustainability and all sorts of other high-tech topics. And it'll be a lot of fun too, because people will get to network.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so what were the key takeaways from today's session?
Well, there were too many takeaways to mention, and just even to think of the key ones is difficult. But I was just blown away in terms of what great content we had from both panels, and what a generative conversation it was. So as people spoke, you could see people got ideas, and TUMO was a sponsor, and we saw well, actually we had a great presentation by TUMO, and one of the ladies in our audience came up to me now and said, how can we get TUMO in London? What can I do? I'm willing to help. And this is not an Armenian person. This is an English person who was just so passionately taken by the idea and the concept that she wanted to do something about it. So I think the biggest takeaway was just the amount of opportunities are just endless, and the spirit of collaboration and innovation in Armenia is pretty much amazing. So from a British point of view, I think you've got a real fertile ground there to be able to make something out of nothing. At a very affordable cost, because obviously the skill levels are high and the salaries are low. So you can pretty much, make that your play area to innovate and run pilot projects in anything, AI or anything else for that matter.
Absolutely, thank you. And we have heard that you've just launched a brand new book. Is that right?
Yeah, so I try to keep it secret, so I only post 3 times a day. But no, I'm joking. Yeah, so I've been working on something for about 3 years. It's called Strategic Co-Pilot, and it's a CEO's Guide to Changing Times. And about 3 years ago, I started when a lot of this uncertainty we were talking about uncertainty, but obviously now it's even worse than ever. So it's very timely. It was released on the 26th of February, 2025. It basically is a CEO's Guide to Changing Times around how to develop their leadership team, how to understand strategic foresight, how they should be able to monitor signals, weak signals, strong signals, and be able to react to them in very quick time. And it takes into account a lot of the complexities now that boards have, boards, CEOs, executive teams, to deal with things that are changing every week versus every 3 months, where you could sit down and have a board meeting and plan for 3 months. Now it's really about getting your team ready for anything, and it ties a lot into a lot of the books you've seen around black swan events and stuff. So it's really about resilience, and teaching your leadership team to understand how resilient they really are, so that they see their gaps, and just how to build a very kind of strong organization that can kind of grow and make the most of what's going on in the world right now.
That sounds really great. Thank you so much, Haig. And we will put a link to this book on Amazon in the description of this video. So stay tuned and follow the link.
Fantastic.
Congratulations and thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And now I'm going to introduce Marina Mograbyn, a teaching fellow at Said Business School, University of Oxford. So Marina, tell us a bit about yourself and what you do.
So I'm a teaching fellow in international business at Said Business School, and I also do research on global and international entrepreneurship. I study digital startups and also internationalization strategy of companies.
And what were your key takeaways from today's session?
So I think today's session was very good at outlining potential opportunities for collaboration between UK and Armenia, highlighting the talent available in Armenia and the education and financial support for AI industry that UK can provide. So there would be a lot of mutual benefits from collaboration.
And what excites you most about the future of AI?
So I think what excites me most about future of AI is the potential of AI to improve our day-to-day lives. So from the panelists, we heard how AI can help to improve healthcare and provide more personalized care to patients, which will be also more affordable, and this will take pressure from doctors.
Thank you. That sounds great. And now I'm going to introduce Paul Vatistas, a partner and director at Haig Barrett. So hi, Paul. Tell us a bit about yourself and what do you do?
My background is really primarily in business advisory for many, many years around technology. So I started life at McKinsey Management Consultancy, then went to work for several corporations managing their IT businesses. We grew one of those up to 70 million. And then since then, been doing consulting projects in various different guises, again, primarily around technology, but including with companies like Symantec, VA Software, launching some of their products. And then more recently with Haig, I've known Haig for 30 years, but more recently with Haig, working on some of our client projects in energy, technology again, and pharma and biotech.
Thank you. And what would you say were the key takeaways from today's discussions on AI opportunities and challenges?
I think today's discussion was really good at looking at opportunities, particularly, I think, between the UK and Armenia. And I'm actually pretty excited about that space. I think one of the big takeaways is there is a real depth of talent in Armenia, and we have to find ways to connect that to the UK tech industry. And similarly, the other way, there are opportunities for people in the UK to really leverage some of the capabilities that are in Armenia to grow their businesses more rapidly. So I think that whole area of opportunity is kind of my number one takeaway from today.
So from your perspective, what is the most pressing barrier to AI adoption in businesses today?
I think when we talk to clients, when I talk to businesses, when I go to conferences, I think the biggest barrier is what I would call AI literacy. So a lot of companies know they need to do something with AI. They're keen to do something with AI. They have no idea really how to start implementing it. And part of that has to be training everybody in an enterprise to be what I call AI literate. They need to know don't upload proprietary data onto ChatGPT because they're putting it into the public space, for example. So they need to understand just enough to be able to use the tools, start experimenting with the tools. And so I think that that's the biggest barrier. And then we see huge opportunities, and we definitely provide services to support companies at the leadership level to better understand the AI opportunities, to become more literate, to become more comfortable with it, and to roll those out either through in-person or online training to the wider organization, which will then enable it to adopt AI much more quickly.
Mm-hmm. And is there any way to control what employees can upload to ChatGPT, let's say, and other portals, or there isn't such legislation or regulation at the moment?
Well, this is a real challenge. There is regulation. There's in the UK and the EU, even in parts of the US, there is regulation. Companies definitely try and set policies where they say don't do this kind of behavior. But the reality is it doesn't really work. If you're a big corporation with 70,000 people and you tell everybody, you mustn't upload something proprietary to ChatGPT, but you're not properly training them to truly understand what that is, or if you blanket say nobody uses these tools, the reality is people are going to use these tools. They have them on their phones. They're going to use them in their work, and they're going to use them anyway. So you kind of have to preempt that. And again, going back to why training is important, you got to preempt that with training so they really understand how to work safely, really, with these tools. And for companies to try and do that by diktat will not work. It doesn't work because people just go off the reservation, and now you have a massive cybersecurity risk.
Absolutely. And what would you say is the safest, in your opinion, tool to use nowadays?
I think generally, I think they're all safe. I'm not a huge fan of the Chinese ones because they're kind of leaky, and you're not really sure who's coming in through these backdoor logins. So I would personally avoid DeepSeek and Ernie, but I think the other ones are all fine.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Paul.
Okay, my pleasure.
Perfect. Please tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Charle Malas. I am part Armenian, part Christian Palestinian on my father's side. My educational background is applied physics with electronics. I graduated from Kingston University here in England, where I have been in this country for now more than 50 years, but that's another story. My career background is in logistics, transportation, aviation, ship movements, and what have you. But as you progress in my career, then I became more involved with port management, and also specifically dry ports. Dry ports in terms of I also not only manage and operate, but I also now design and create dry ports, which basically segues into what I've done for Armenia as to my connection with Armenia, and that is to create, design, and propose the Shirak Dry Port Special Economic Zone.
And can you tell us a bit more? Why did you create that? What is the purpose of it?
The genesis of that came straight after my father's passing away, and he died in 2010. One of the ways to deal with the grief, I basically I just threw myself at this, at designing something, and Armenia wasn't in my plan. So I looked at Ethiopia, I looked at Qatar, I looked at Uzbekistan, but then one morning I literally woke up and said, "Well, wait a minute, you're Armenian. Look at Armenia, landlocked. It could be beneficial there." And so I spent 3 months studying it, investigating it, and what have you, and then I created it. And after 5 iterations, eventually it was proposed. I proposed it 3 times, once here in London to someone very high up in the Armenian government who was here. That didn't go very far. And then in 2016, the Ministry of Finance contacted me after a friend proposed it to them. But they said, "Charles, can you remove the railway side of it?" I said, "Well, no, you can't. It won't work. You need the railway element." So no, forget that. And then in 2019, I tried to propose it again, and that fell on complete deaf ears until Vahen Kerobian, the ex-minister of economy of Armenia, he had heard about it. And he contacted me and said, "Charles, I'm now Minister of Economy, and I want you to come to Armenia to do this." And which in 2022, I moved to Armenia. and spent 2 years developing and working on it, and was approved by the government. By Pashinyan himself approved it and said, "Let's do this," and things began to collapse after that. So I've returned back to England, and now I'm working on new projects and what have you. But I hope that the government will continue with it. This was a gift from me to Armenia. I never asked for any money for it. It is my idea. I still own it in a way, but I've gifted it to Armenia for them to continue with it because it's going to be good for the country.
Wow, that's really great. Thanks for sharing. And can you please tell us what was your key takeaway from today's discussion on AI challenges and opportunities?
But I've heard AI so much now. It's really everywhere on the news. You now wake up hearing about AI. You go to sleep hearing about AI, and I am totally AI illiterate. I wouldn't know. I've heard ChatGPT. I use it from time to time, and I find it to be extremely educational. I learn a lot from asking questions, and ChatGPT comes back to me with answers, and I'm saying, that's a different angle. But having lived in Armenia for 2 years, having worked, and particularly when I began to give lectures at the universities over there, introducing the Shirak dry port SEZ to students there, I realized that the youth in Armenia, especially at that level, university level, higher school levels, they are some of the best and most amazing human beings I've ever come across. And I get teary-eyed because they really genuinely are some of the best human beings in the world. And I've traveled and I've worked overseas, and trust me, I've never come across such human beings before. People like you. And the fact that they are now so much into AI, that they are so literate, so understanding, so have such in-depth, that being here today, and I'm so glad I did come, because I took away from today the connectivity between my old technology and what AI can integrate with the technology that I'm used to. Heavy cranes, heavy equipment, ships, aircrafts. There is an interconnection. I think I've learned today that with AI, we are at the very early stages of how it can contribute to the work that we do, particularly if the dry port in Armenia does proceed and does go ahead. There is huge benefit that it can actually gain out of this. And the youth in Armenia who are involved in all of this, they are the most creative minds in the world, in my opinion. They can contribute to creating new and evolve technologies to such an extent that the movement of goods or the creation of goods, which is what my concept was based on, and that is to be export concentric for Armenia, it would benefit those connectivities to such levels that I think even countries like Dubai who are supreme experts in this field, would come to Armenia and say, okay, then now we see what you're doing and we see how you're doing it. Let's work together on this. And that today's meeting helps in that creativity and that interconnection between cross borders and cross-border movements of goods.
And what kind of strategies would you implement in your business that you've learned from today's session?
Well, my first question was to Paul, one of the panelists, was that blockchain is something that we used to hear about a lot. It was the buzzword. And then suddenly nobody's talking about blockchain anymore. Everybody's talking about AI. And it was purely through him that I learned how they actually intertwine and integrate together. I know how blockchain works in my industry. The trust element of the movement of goods, of your connection with customs and excise, of customs clearance, of pre-clearance, pre-notification of goods arriving, delays or what have you. But now what he said, okay, then, but the AI element adds an additional level. Neither will take away from each other, but one will complement the other. And I only learned that today, where I was completely confused before. I mean, I'm good at actually designing and putting together these structures and which part of the world they should exist. But then the operational aspect of which I have a lot of experience in operating ports. how do they connect it with new technology? Today I got that.
So the ports do not use a lot of AI at the moment?
No.
No?
Today, ports are now just now introducing blockchain technology. But in the future, how I see AI, how it would work, my next stint hopefully is going to be in Saudi Arabia. I'm just waiting on contract terms. I understand how I can connect blockchain and AI together, and that's going to be my takeaway today in terms of how I would implement it in my business.
We're now interviewing Pascal Joncour, partner at venture capital Convergence Partners. Please tell us a bit about yourself and what do you do?
So I'm a venture capital investor in the area of health and mental health and brain health, meaning I'm investing in new modalities and solutions and startups who look at curing the new pandemic of our time, meaning mental health and brain health, Alzheimer, Parkinson, neurodegenerative diseases.
Thank you. And what were the key takeaways from today's session on AI opportunities and challenges?
I was particularly impressed by the state of the art of AI education and infrastructure in Armenia, especially the presentation by the TUMO school and its founder and managing director was very impressive to me, and I look forward to collaborating more with that infrastructure, obviously learning or giving the opportunity for younger generation to learn about coding was very impressive. And I think that's a skill set that we all would need in our educational system. So if Armenia can be leading the way, I think that would be a tremendous opportunity to make the Armenian way most known in other countries and hopefully to bring many talents into Armenia.
Thank you. And you talked about healthcare today, how AI will revolutionize healthcare. Can you tell us what do you think is the next breakthrough that's going to happen?
So I think to begin with, AI is making healthcare more efficient, more proactive, more predictive, more individualized. But this is only looking at the current and let's say existing aspect of the system. Where I'm more fascinated by is where AI will enable new modalities such as infrared light, magnetic stimulation, new frequencies, ultrasound, to really break into the diseases that today we can't find a cure for, namely Alzheimer, Parkinson, and some depression that currently either have no cure or have a one-size-fits-all type of approach. If you think about mental health diseases, this is a generic answer, whilst now we are developing biomarkers that will be able to look at specific individualized depression types, which enables us obviously to tackle depression in a totally different way. Whilst to give you an example, infrared light stimulation might be able to actually influence the neuroinflammation inside the gray matter of your brain to actually treat neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer. And that's where AI will enable and empower those modalities to really come through. So this is innovation on both sides.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And do you see any risks with that? With using AI for?
I think one risk or one challenge is around the data security. And we hear a lot about cybersecurity risks around the globe. And I think accessing health data without being accredited or allowed to is certainly like generating a risk. Other than that, I think if the data is used for predicting things that maybe have an influence on your premium price for an insurance, or if you're going to be hired into a company or not, this is very sensitive areas that we need to be very, very careful about in how they are handled by the society and by the different stakeholders.
Thank you. And just one final question. Are there any current tools available in the market that you would recommend for people to use specifically in support of mental health?
There's one tool I've been coming across and I'm hoping for a very wide adoption. It's been used by any IRM or MRI scan on the planet that is looking at the white matter on inside your brain and is able to tell you how healthy your brain is, even before you develop any condition or any visible symptoms of a condition. And I think I would love to see these kind of new technologies and new approaches being widely adopted by healthcare systems around the world.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.